Assalamu alaikum. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start. And in lecture 17, we were primarily discussed in lecture 16. By the end of lecture 16, we discussed about molecular orbital diagrams of idealized systems, or we can say where there was no sp mixing, right? Oxygen, fluorine, and neon, right? So now we will be moving our discussion towards the sp mixing, and let's go directly to that. Sp mixing basically happens due to the fact that you are, I hope by now, quite familiar with the orbital energy trends. As you can see, till nitrogen here, there is quite less difference between the s and p orbitals. The energies between the s and p orbitals are quite less compared to like this one, oxygen, fluorine, and neon, right? So that's the primary reason for sp mixing, right? And how it actually happens. So before I explain sp mixing, it would be I should we should revise the basically the principles of MO theory, which we sorry, I think I missed the whiteboard. Yeah. So there are two factors on which molecular orbital theory depends. Whenever we are going to talk about whether two atomic orbitals are going to form molecular orbitals or not, the first factor you need to be careful is basically symmetry. Symmetry of the atomic orbitals, and the second point is energy of the atomic orbitals. So first one is the primary condition, in a sense that if the symmetry is favorable of the atomic orbitals we are going to overlap, only then there is the chance, then we will be looking at the second point, which is the energy. If symmetry is incorrect, there is no chance, even energies are same, the orbitals cannot overlap. So we had detailed discussion about symmetry in the previous tutorial, basically in lecture 16 and 15. I'm just going to briefly describe here that by talking about correct symmetry, I actually mean, for example, if this is the s orbital and we have px orbital, this is the positive phase, this is the negative phase. S orbital, suppose this is the positive phase. These are the two nuclei, right at the center. And when these orbitals come closer, what happens? Both of them overlap in such manner that जितना यहाँ पे s ऑर्बिट पॉजिटिव फेज से ओवरलैप हो रहा है, उतना ही यहाँ पे नेगेटिव फेज से ओवरलैप हो रहा है at the same time. So such conditions are those in which we call them incorrect symmetry. So these are the conditions where there won't be any overlap, no matter orbitals do have same energy or same energy. So if we have similarly pz orbital, and we do have, suppose, px orbital, so same case here, when they will come closer, so this positive part will overlap here, this positive part will equally overlap with the negative part at the same time. So such conditions are those in which we call them incorrect symmetry, or they won't overlap. And we also saw several conditions where the symmetry is correct. As a general rule, you can how do I move this? Okay, so as a general rule, you should know that same orbitals always have same symmetry. So if I'm going to overlap s with s, there is no doubt they do have same symmetry, they can overlap, right? S orbital, they can overlap. If I'm talking about px overlapping with px, this can happen. Similarly, py and py. And there is another condition when where different orbitals like S and PZ. This is also a correct symmetry. We discussed it before, that this is the S orbital. And if we do have PZ in such fashion, so that's the point, because these are the nuclei right at the center. When these orbitals will come closer, they will have one overlap, or only constructive or destructive. If this is the positive one, this will be the constructive. If I subtract this, the negative will overlap. So these are the conditions where we discuss what is the symmetry. So here our primary discussion is related to sp mixing, and sp mixing is basically relates to the symmetry of the orbital. If we go back to the idealized MO diagram, you can see that these were atomic orbitals, and they overlap to give obviously molecular orbitals drawn right at the center. These are the elements, symmetry, basically we call it G and U. So for any homonuclear diatomics, we label the symmetry as G and U, right? And we already discussed this as well previously, how we find this. So right now our discussion point is why sp mixing occurs. The reason being, you can see this is 3 sigma G, 3 sigma orbital with symmetry G, and this is 2 sigma orbital with symmetry G. So both of these have same symmetry. So first condition where we talked about symmetry satisfies here, that their symmetry is same. Second point comes energy. So till nitrogen, where there is less difference between S and P orbitals, the MO diagram that will be formed by in such elements, in these elements, there will be quite less difference between the energies of 3 sigma G and 2 sigma G. So what actually happens, these orbitals further overlap to give further MO orbitals. We'll see this in the next slide here. So I was talking about these two orbitals, this was 2 sigma G and this was 3 sigma G. They had same symmetry, and when they further overlap, what happens? So, okay, so these were the new orbitals, and these were the first one. If I call this is 2 sigma, this is 3 sigma G. So what happens, again, the same point, that when two orbitals mix, there will be less constructive overlap resulting in lowering in energy, and there will be destructive overlap resulting in increase in energy. So what happens, this orbitals gets lower in energy, and this 3 sigma G, its energy increases. And when this energy increases, the new orbital forms lies somewhere here, just like shown here, right? So 3 sigma G, which was initially occurring at this level, as you know, these MO diagrams are drawn on energy axis, on the y-axis, right? So 3 sigma G, which was initially here, its energy increases. Why increases? Because of the overlap of 2 sigma G and 3 sigma G, right? So any questions till now?
Can you repeat the energy point in the 2
Yeah,
sigma G?
so I was saying that this was the idealized MO diagram, and when S and P orbitals, their difference is less, these two orbitals that are formed here also have comparable energies. They already have same symmetry, so first condition satisfies, and the second condition satisfies because these are boron, carbon, or nitrogen elements. These orbitals do have, these atoms do have less difference between S and P orbital energies. That's why these 3 sigma G and 2 sigma G do have comparable energies as well. Once they do have comparable energies, what you can do, you can further overlap them. So if suppose this is 2 sigma G here, this is 3 sigma G here. So again उसी तरह का overlap होगा, एक bonding बनेगा, एक anti bonding बनेगा, just like this. अगर मैं इसको 2 sigma G कह दूं and this one 3 sigma G, so कंस्ट्रक्टिव इंटरफेरेंस से एक बॉन्डिंग बन गया न्यू, एंड एक एंटी बॉन्डिंग बन गया. So resultant diagram looks like this. 2 sigma G, which was initially here, its energy gets lower. 3 sigma G, which was initially here, its energy increased, right? So that's how the sp mixing occurs. I hope it is clear now.
Yes, thank you.
डिस्ट्रक्टिव वाली भी चेंज होंगी या सिर्फ कंस्ट्रक्टिव वाली साइड चेंज होंगी?
डिस्ट्रक्टिव भी चेंज हुई है बट पैटर्न सेम रहा है इसका, बिकॉज देयर वर नीचे कोई ऑर्बिटल था नहीं. सो 2 सिग्मा जी और इनिशियली यहाँ पे था, वो थोड़ा नीचे जरूर हो गया. एंड यस, द डिस्ट्रक्टिव, द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज, guys, please mute your mic. All right, so just like these bonding molecular orbitals, both of these having same symmetry and comparable energies, similarly 2 sigma u and 3 sigma u, they also have comparable energies, and obviously as represented by u, they do have same symmetry. So again the result is similar. The orbital which was already lying here, उसकी energy कम हो जाएगी, the one lying upward increases in energy, right? So what would be the result? 3 sigma u which was initially lying here, इसकी energy increase हो जाएगी. 2 sigma u which was initially lying here, इसकी energy यहाँ पे आ जाएगी. So for sp mixing, this pattern is particularly important because you know that we do find magnetic behavior when we fill the electrons in the MO diagram. And if this 3 sigma g was here, there would be different magnetic system arrangement of electrons, and if 3 sigma g gets higher in energy, so usme aapki arrangement different hogi. We'll see that in a bit, right? So yes, both bonding and anti-bonding दोनों में sp mixing अपना role play करती है, but the take home message is the main arrangement जहाँ पे change होती है this particular area, right? 3 sigma g higher gets more energy. All right. So if we are good with sp mixing, next the whole discussion is pretty similar, which we have discussed earlier. As I have mentioned in my previous tutorials as well, that these questions related to MO diagrams are, I believe, are pretty simple, because for any particular set of elements, you do have the same structure, right? Same structure banna hai. All you have to do is simply count the valence electrons and fill them starting from low to high energy, right? So now we do have another factor called sp mixing, and what you need to know is from orbital energy trend that until nitrogen this sp mixing occurs. For oxygen, fluorine and neon, there is no sp mixing. And what's the result? Only the arrangement of these orbitals changes, right? So once you are good with this, the next steps are pretty similar. If you are asked to draw the MO diagram of B2, what you need to do, simply write electronic configuration of both the elements, count valence electrons, and draw the sketch of MO diagram and fill the electrons from low to high. So we do have 6 electrons here, 3 from the first boron, 3 from the second. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. Really important. Why? Because if you draw this diagram without sp mixing, 3 sigma g would be here, and you will be filling like this. So for B2, if I do not include sp mixing, B2 would be diamagnetic, right? But if I count sp mixing, if I take into account that there are 2 unpaired electrons resulting in paramagnetic behavior, right? So that's how the sketch simply is changing the position of 3 sigma g, the magnetic behavior can change, right? So similarly, you know that when we move towards C2, what will happen? Only 6 electrons. In case of C2, we do have 8 electrons in the valence shell. For N2, we'll have 10 electrons. So only 2 electrons increase because each element is the next in the period, and as the atomic number is increased by 1, right? So all the other factors are same. So just to repeat what we did in the previous lecture again, the significance of bond order. So bond order basically relates to bond strength, and this in turn further relates to bond length. Although we had discussed this in for cases like O2, F2, similarly यहाँ पे भी वही situation होगी. Higher the bond order means the bond is stronger, and its length will be small, meaning the two atoms will be closer to each other, resulting in a more strong bond, right? So what happens basically, if you are to ask the trend in the bond strength or bond length, what you simply need to do is to calculate the bond order. If I asked about, for example, O2, O2 plus 1, O2 negative, right? So what you need to do, you need to calculate bond order in all cases. And after that, you can rationalize the trend, which of them will have higher bond strength, which will have the lower bond strength. Or similarly, the bond length, whose trend lies the opposite. Like if the bond order is higher, the bond length will be smaller, right? So higher bond order results in small or less bond length. So these are really important as far as the exams or quizzes are concerned. And the next pair is the magnetic behavior. That's pretty simple. You know, if there are unpaired electrons, it would be paramagnetic. Otherwise, it would be diamagnetic. All right, so let's take our discussion forward. Similarly, C2, as I mentioned earlier, only there would be 8 electrons. The rest of the diagram remains same. There would be obviously sp mixing. 3 sigma G would be higher in energy, and that's how you fill the electrons. So guys, just do let me know if there is any confusion writing the electronic configuration, like how these two orbitals are coming. Because we are drawing the MO diagrams of valence electrons, you can see this is 2 sigma G, 2 sigma U, 3 sigma G, 3 sigma U, and so on and so forth. So what are these orbitals? If anyone has any confusion, we can draw the whole MO diagram to explain that.
Sir, I have a question.
Ji.
So in the quiz we had N2 plus, तो उसमें भी sp mixing होनी थी, like we had to draw it like this.
So was there N2 plus? Okay, I believe that wasn't part of the syllabus, right? Because as far as I know, sp mixing started in this particular lecture. So yes, agar if the sp mixing was included in lecture 16 basically, then you should know about that, right? So usme sp mixing honi thi. But if that is not included in lecture 16, that's then we obviously won't deduct any mark for that.
Okay, हमने detail में नहीं किया था, we just like touched upon it, we didn't do it in detail like we're doing it right now, like we didn't learn how to draw the diagrams.
If the diagrams were not discussed in the previous lecture, then there won't be any deduction of marks for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so moving forward, again, as I mentioned, we move from carbon to nitrogen. 2 more electrons will increase, and we fill the electrons from lowest energy to the highest. So the filling is again the same. And orbitals lying in lower in energy gets filled first, and then the next ones. And again, we find the bond order, and as you can see, there are no unpaired electrons. It would be diamagnetic, right? So okay, so now we do have discussed the MO diagrams of all the second period elements, right? And what you need to be mindful is any elements lying before oxygen. Let me go to this. Yeah. So this is suppose the part of second period. So any elements lying before this particular group, the group where there is oxygen, or you can call it sixth group, elements lying before these will always have sp mixing. I'm particularly talking about second period, right? And third period. So in sub में SA, all of the diatomics of these two groups, these two periods before the sixth group do include the sp mixing in their MO diagrams. And we now, since we have discussed the diatomics of where we do have similar atoms like O2, N2, and C2, let's move our discussion forward to heteronuclear diatomics. Before we go into that, there is a quite interesting trend, as you can see. This is the dissociation energy, which obviously relates to the bond strength. And you know this is further related to bond order. So what you can see here, this vector BE2. So BE2, you know the electronic configuration is 1s2 and 2s2, right? If I draw the MO diagram, what you'll get is these are the two s orbitals. This would be bonding, this would be anti-bonding, right? 2s2, this is 2s of the first beryllium, this is 2s of the second. So total electrons, valence electrons are 4. So that's the result I will get. And if the bond, or if I calculate the bond order would be obviously 2 minus 2, 0. So we do have discussed about He2 and E2 previously, where when the bond order is 0, that means that system won't exist, right? As you can see for Ne2, the dissociation energy is even less than 1. So why it's 9 approximately in case of Be2? Anyone can explain that? So that's basically related to, again, the sp mixing and how it basically relates. We need to look here where we discussed as, yeah. So what happens basically, we do discussed in detail how this energy goes up and this one goes down. For the destructive interference or anti-bonding orbitals, when 2 sigma u decreases in energy, what happens basically, that this sort of diagram you will get, and this shows that that was the obviously the level where we do have atomic orbitals energy. So the energy of the bonding MO is less than, is higher than the decrease. Basically, I'm talking about the decrease, then the increase in 2 sigma u. So precisely putting it, so if I write 2 sigma u minus 2s, this energy difference, which is in this case less than this difference. So in idealized MO, what you already know that the bonding orbital gets less increase compared to the increase in anti-bonding. And we discussed this with the, we related this to the plot of potential energy. So a lot of the stuff is related to the previous lecture. Again, I have to give the reference again and again. So guys, if anyone has any sort of confusion, simply unmute yourself and ask, because I'm supposing that you guys are pretty familiar with the previous lecture where we discussed the potential energy graphs and the idealized MO diagrams. So in this particular case, in idealized case, what happens basically, 2 sigma u minus 2s, that difference is basically higher than this difference. But now due to sp mixing, as the energy of 2 sigma u gets lowered, and as well as the energy of 2 sigma g is also less, this sort of difference occurs, right? So once the anti-bonding energy gets lowered, the bond order won't be exactly 0, right? So bond order is quite related to, since you know the number of electrons in bonding minus anti-bonding divided by 2. But once the sketch of the diagram, the energy diagram is not the same as like this one. So bond order won't be exactly 0 where there is sp mixing. And that's the main rationale behind that, right? So due to this particular reason, Be2 does not have exactly bond order it won't be 0. So any questions related to that? Because that's a little bit of exception from the general trend, and that's really important to that you should know the difference and as well as the rationale behind that. Okay, so if that is clear, let's move our discussion to the heteronuclear diatomics. So first of all, again, we discussed this previously, that whenever we have heteronuclear diatomics to different atoms, the MO diagram or sketch will get relates to each other like this one. So it won't be any longer the case where both the atomic orbitals have same energies. There would be bonding, there would be anti-bonding like this, right? So there would be some difference in splitting. The orbital lying higher in energy will be closer to the anti-bonding orbital, and the orbital lying lower in energy will be closer to the bonding orbital, right? So in simple words, the bonding orbital 2 sigma is more closer to hydrogen in this particular case, and the anti-bonding is more closer to lithium. Why exactly? Because once you are asked to suppose draw the MO diagram of lithium hydride, what you need to do again, write the electronic configuration, and then you need to know the energy of these orbitals, right? Suppose if I do not give you these energy values, that the 1s of lithium has -5 electron volt and 1s of hydrogen is -14 electron volt, I still expect you to know the trend. And what's the trend? You know, this is hydrogen and this is lithium. So we are going down the group, right? So when you go down the group, and we are here talking about the energy of s orbital, right? Valence orbital basically, right? You know, the orbital energy increases as you go down the group. So it was pretty clear that you need to draw 2s higher in energy compared to 1s of hydrogen, right? So once you draw these orbitals, the valence orbitals, but we do again, we draw the bonding molecular orbital, it gets lower in energy, anti-bonding gets higher in energy. And the next step is total valence electrons. Total valence electrons, in this case we have 2 electrons, and how we fill these electrons, starting from the lowest we go upwards, right? So at the lowest valence MO orbital, we do have this bonding 2 sigma, so 2 electrons will be filled here. Pretty simple. And what would be the bond order? Bond order would be 2 minus 0. There are no electrons in this anti-bonding orbital, so bond order would be 1. So another concept that relates to this MO diagram heteronuclear systems is this electronegativity. So as you can see that this bonding MO is closer to hydrogen. What this actually means? This means that this is the molecule we are talking about, and the electron which are lying in 2 sigma have this sort of density. If I draw the color density plot, it would be like this. So these 2 electrons, the whole MO basically is lying more on this hydrogen, right? So what that means, this again means basically that hydrogen would be partial negative charge and lithium would be partial positive charge. So that's how we incorporate electronegativity in MO diagrams as well. Okay. So moving towards slightly complex systems where we do have to incorporate p orbitals as well. So here we have the MO diagram of HF, right? So if you do have any questions related to lithium hydride, you can ask. Okay, so talking about hydrogen fluoride, again, our first job is to simply write the electronic configuration. Now, once I do that, again, I had to refer to the energy plot. And you do have idea that if this is the second period, so the 2s energy decreases like this and 2p energy decreases like this, right? Like this. So what actually happens, as you can see, what are the various orbitals I have? So hydrogen has 1s, that's pretty simple. What are the other orbitals in fluorine? I do have 2s and I have 2pz. I won't be including these two. Why exactly? Because again, symmetry. 2px and 2py cannot overlap with s orbital of hydrogen, right? Why exactly? Because of incorrect symmetry. So the first rule of MO diagram violates here. That's why we are not going to incorporate these as the major contenders for overlapping. So the other two I do have is 2s and 2p. And as you know, as we go along the period, the s orbital's energy decreases and p decreases less sharply. That means the probability of overlapping of hydrogen 1s is more towards 2pz. And that's pretty clear with the orbital energies you are given as well. Hydrogen 1s is minus 14 electron volt and fluorine 2p is minus 20 electron volt. Let's go to the general trend. This is hydrogen, this is helium, this is lithium, and right at the end of second period almost we do have fluorine, right? And you know, as you go along the period, the energy decreases. Again, I'm talking about if you are not given these energies, you should have an idea that you need to draw fluorine orbitals lower in energy compared to hydrogen, right? And that's pretty simple. You can get this idea from the general orbital energy trend, right? Okay. So, you know, as we are going along the period, energy is decreasing, and S2s obviously is less in energy than 2p due to its extremely high penetration. So the only orbital that has comparable energy, that does has comparable energy, is this 2p, and symmetry wise 2pz. So what we are going to do, I draw the valence electron, valence orbitals. This is hydrogen, this is 2p. 2s is lying somewhere lower in energy for lithium, right? So since 2s is lower in energy, so total valence electrons would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I have 6 electrons that I'm going to fill in this MO diagram. So since this 2px and 2py, there is not any correct symmetry orbital here in hydrogen. So these two orbitals, 2px and 2py, similar comes right here next to the energy. Their energy remains same. There won't be any overlapping related to px and py. So when 2pz overlaps with 1s of hydrogen, what happens, this sort of diagram again, you will get 3 sigma g gets lower in energy and corresponding anti-bonding gets higher in energy, right? And now we are going to fill 6 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty simple. So that's the result you will get. And what you can see that this 3 sigma g, this bonding electrons again have more density on fluorine. That's why when I draw the structure like this, I always draw partial negative charge here and partial positive charge here. So talking about the electronic configuration, or this symbol 3 sigma g or 4 sigma g, can you relate what are the lower orbitals I have? As this is labeled as 3 sigma, it means there would be 2 sigma somewhere lower in energy and 1 sigma somewhere quite lowest in energy. I hope you are getting, or I should draw the whole diagram of HF on a separate page.
Sir, can you repeat HF again? I'm a little confused.
Okay, so let's draw it quickly. So if you are to ask the MO diagram of HF, what you need to do, simply write the electronic configuration. This is hydrogen and this is fluorine. Right. So once I do have this, what's the next point I need to know? I need to see the symmetry of valence electrons, valence orbitals, sorry. So on the case of hydrogen, I have 1s, pretty simple, इसमें तो कोई orbital है ही नहीं. As far as fluorine is concerned, there are two valence subshells, and what are the orbitals present? One is 2s, I know this is the correct symmetry, and the other is 2pz having correct symmetry with 1s, right? So that's the probability of overlapping as far as symmetry is concerned. Once I'm good with symmetry, you should know that 2px and 2py won't have correct symmetry. That's why we are not counting them here. So once the symmetry is fine, next I need to look at the energy. And since hydrogen is on extreme left and fluorine is on extreme right in the second period, you should know the valence orbitals of fluorine are quite lower in energy compared to hydrogen. Once I know that, next step is which orbital will have some comparable energy compared to 1s of hydrogen. There is 2s of fluorine and there is 2pz of fluorine, and it's pretty clear, you know, that 2p is higher in energy compared to 2s. All these 2px, 2py, 2pz are degenerate, but since 2pz has the correct symmetry, that's why 2pz will overlap with 1s of hydrogen. So once you are clear with this, then you need to draw the structure of MO diagram. If I'm drawing 1s of hydrogen here, these are the 3 2p orbitals of fluorine. So this would be, can call it 2px, 2py, and 2pz. Since 2p had the correct symmetry, 2pz had the correct symmetry, so that would be the bonding, and that would be the corresponding anti-bonding orbital. Once I draw the sketch, the next step is to fill the electrons. So how many electrons are in 2p? 5 electrons are in 2p orbital, 2p subshell, and 1 electron in the 1s. So total electrons are 6. And these 2px and 2py won't change in energy, they will come as it is, right? So I have to draw, fill the 6 electrons starting from the lowest orbital available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the MO diagram of HF if I only incorporate the valence orbitals, right? Since we are here, let's discuss these labels. Since this particular orbital was labeled as 3 sigma, this was labeled as 4 sigma. Obviously, these are the first pi and first pi. So why exactly this is the 3rd sigma? The reason being, there is 2s lying quite low in energy because there is no orbital having the comparable energy here. 2s will come as it is here, and this would be 2 sigma. Similarly, 1s of lithium is also quite low in energy. Obviously, compared to 2s, it's quite low in energy. Again, there is no comparable orbital here, so this 1s will come here as it is again. So that's just, I'm drawing the whole MO just to let you know that how we get these labels. In your exams or in as far as applications are concerned, we only draw valence orbitals, right? So this is the first S of lithium. Sorry, we are discussing hydrogen. So right, this is the 1s of fluorine, right? So if I have drawn the whole MO diagram, I need to draw count all the electrons. So hydrogen is 1s1, fluorine is 1s2, 2s2, 2p5. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, total 10 electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So total 10 electrons if I count the whole system. So that's how these labels are coming. Why exactly? Because when you are going to write electronic configuration of molecule, you need to incorporate these labels as well. आप जो MO diagram valence orbital की बनाओगे, वो obviously ये यहाँ से start होगी, यही होगी, but you need to incorporate these labels जो नीचे आ रहे हैं, उनको as it is हम electronic configuration में जरूर लिखते हैं. I hope it is clear now. So that would be the the electronic configuration 1 sigma 2, 2 sigma 2, 3 sigma 2, and 1 pi 4. So this is 1 pi having 4 electrons. This is 3 sigma having 2 electrons. And as I draw in previously, in the previous slide there, where we draw the whole MO, you know there is 2 sigma lying lower and 1 sigma even lower in energy. That's why I write an electronic configuration like this. So any questions till now?
इसकी एंटी बॉन्डिंग साइड पे ऊपर 3 सिग्मा नहीं होगा, ये 4 सिग्मा क्यों है?
आप ये कह रहे हो कि it would be should be 3 sigma here and 3 sigma star here, right?
Yes.
So there are two ways to label that. आप उसको इस तरीके से भी लेबल कर सकते हो. यहाँ पे 3 sigma star ना लिखने की एक रीजन ये है because in homonuclear diatomics you do have the same energies, तो एक bonding होगा, एक anti bonding होगा. If I say like this is the 100% bonding, this 100% anti bonding. But इस case में since there are difference in energies, no doubt this is anti bonding. You can write 3 sigma star here as well, but they usually prefer that this is 3 sigma, this is 4 sigma, right? Why? Because this is not 100% anti bonding, right? Because there is energy difference between them.
So for instance अगर इसके ऊपर भी एक ऑर्बिटल होता तो उसका मैं फिर अगर बॉन्डिंग बनाता तो फिर वो 5 सिग्मा होता.
Exactly. But in some books you can see even for such figures you can see this is 3 sigma and this is 3 sigma star, and that's perfectly clear, right as well. उसमें भी कोई there is no ambiguity in that. You can call it this anti-bonding. Okay, so moving forward, we just discussed hydrogen fluoride, then there is NO and CO, and then there will be ionic bonding. So talking about nitrogen oxide, again, what you need to know is whether there would be, since these are adjacent atoms, this is nitrogen, very next there is oxygen. Since nitrogen has, as you know, there is less difference between S and P energies, there will be sp mixing in this whole molecule. Similarly, next slide pe CO hai, there will be sp mixing in CO as well. So as a general rule, if you are drawing MO diagrams of heteronuclear systems, what you need to know, if any element is present which is before oxygen, like nitrogen, carbon, or boron, whether no matter अब nitrogen oxygen के साथ bond बना ले या किसी और से बना ले, if this is nitrogen is present or carbon is present, there would be sp mixing. And that's what clearly shown here. The sketch is pretty similar. As you know, nitrogen, the orbital energy decreases along the period. So they have drawn the 2s of nitrogen higher in energy compared to 2s of oxygen. Similarly, 2p of nitrogen is higher than 2p of oxygen. And with sp mixing, that's the sketch you will get. The next step is pretty simple. You need to count total valence electrons, 5 in nitrogen and 6 in oxygen. That would count to 11. And then you simply fill starting from the lowest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's the 11th electron. Since this is unpaired, obviously the system would be paramagnetic. And next is the bond order. Simply count the electrons in bonding. These are 6 plus 2, 8. 8 electrons in bonding and 3 electrons in anti-bonding. So I'm repeating this again. This is quite easy. Bond order, magnetic behavior, once you are good with the sketch. No matter you are drawing NO, CO, HF, N2, any such systems. So once you are good with the sketch where you need to know where there is sp mixing or there won't be any sp mixing, you can simply go forward. The rest of this procedure is pretty simple. Valence electrons, filling the electrons, find the bond order and magnetic behavior. And as you can see, they do have compared some trend here, NO and NO plus. NO plus में क्या होगा? Obviously एक electron कम हो जाएगा because it's the positive ion. If you remove this electron, even without finding the bond order, you can say that the bond strength of NO would be less than NO positive. Why? Because once you remove the electron from anti-bonding, obviously आपका bond order ज़्यादा ही आएगा, because bond order is defined by bonding electrons minus anti-bonding. So if you remove one electron from anti-bonding, obviously the bond order would be higher. So even if you are given in MCQs, you are asked about different trends, you can even predict the trend without drawing the MO diagram, right? Okay, but I would say at this stage, you should be able to draw MO diagram into 1 to 2 minutes for these simple systems. N2, O2, NO, और HF की थोड़ी सी different है, right? बाकी सबकी quite similar है, right? Same sketch है, you just simply need to count the valence electrons and fill them, right? Okay, because that's the standard way of doing of solving a question, so that's उसमें आपकी कोई गलती होने का चांस कम होगा. All right, so moving forward, CO again pretty simple, pretty similar सिर्फ electrons, valence electron different होंगे और bond order obviously different आएगा. Magnetic behavior you can see by valence electrons, that would be different. Okay, so now we are going to discuss an interesting case where there is no longer sharing of electrons, or you can say why exactly this happens. So if you are asked to draw the MO diagram of lithium fluoride, again the first step is same, draw the write the electronic configurations. Again just like HF के केस में जो हमने देखा था, we know hydrogen is on extreme left, fluorine is on extreme right, so there the energies of fluorine are quite low. But as if you see the trend, this is hydrogen, this is lithium, and this is fluorine. So as you go down the group, energy increases. So जो hydrogen की energy थी lithium की, उससे भी ज़्यादा हो गई है. Now lithium has far more energy than fluorine. So what happens, even this 2pZ, 2s obvious, as you are given the energy, you can see there is no comparison between the energy 2s of lithium and 2s of fluorine. Even for 2p, there is huge difference, like 20 minus 5 would be 15 electron volt difference. This is still quite huge for the overlap to happen. So what's the diagram you will get in this case? Again, the trend, the sketch is the same. Lithium 2s will be higher in energy, all 2p are lower in energy, and the corresponding 2s are even lower in energy, right? So what happens, these 1 pi are remain same because this is 2px, this is 2py. They do not have the correct symmetry to overlap with s orbital, so they remains the same. What happens, 2pz does have correct symmetry with 2s, but the energy difference is so huge, 2pz also remains in the same place, and this 2s remains in the same at the same level as well. So once you sketch the MO, what's the next step? Count the valence electrons. So अगर हमने यहाँ पे 2s draw किया है and that 2s comes here as it is, then I need to count the electrons of 2s as well. But even if you do not draw 2s here, since it was quite lower in energy, आप इसको discard कर सकते थे, just like we did in HF. HF में हमने सिर्फ इतना ही portion draw किया था, right? So the orbitals you accommodate, जो आप valence electron orbitals जो आप draw कर रहे हो, आपको उन्हीं के electrons count करने हैं. So in this particular case हमने 2s draw किया, let's count those electrons as well. So total valence electrons would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So these are 8 electrons. So start filling from the lowest orbital. 2 would be here and 6 would be here. And there is no electron left to fill 5 sigma. So what's the result you have got? You can see the 2s electron, 1 electron which was here, has been shifted to the lower energy orbital that was available on fluorine, this 4 sigma. So that's where you, or obviously you guys have studied this before, that the first and second group elements form ionic bonds with the extreme right elements like chlorine, fluorine, or even oxygen. So the outermost one electron has been transferred to fluorine, right? Because there was one electron here and it does यहाँ पे एक ऑर्बिट एक इलेक्ट्रॉन की स्पेस थी, so that electron obviously wants to lower its energy and that would come here. So that's how you explain ionic bonding using molecular orbitals, MO theory. And if we go through the color density plots, this is suppose lithium, obviously this is the lithium nucleus and this is the nucleus of fluorine. As you can see, 2s के comparable यहाँ पे कोई orbital नहीं है, ना ही energy है कोई same. So the whole 2s, which is converted into 3 sigma, just the name is changed. The orbital remains same. 2s आपको पता है spherically symmetric होता है. That 2s is completely lying on fluorine, right? Similarly 1 pi, अब अगर pi x है तो वो इसी तरह fluorine के ऊपर ही रहेगा. py है, if you imagine this outside and inside the plane, that stays the same again on fluorine. So that's what they have shown here. This is the nucleus of lithium. This is the nucleus of fluorine. The 1 pi are completely lying on fluorine. Similarly, talking about 2pz, which exist in the horizontal fashion, this one, you can see this is the nucleus of lithium. This is the nucleus of fluorine. The whole 2pz is lying on fluorine, which again explains that the electron which was here in 2s of lithium before bonding has been completely transferred to fluorine. Okay, guys, any questions? या तो सारा समझ आ रहा है या बिल्कुल नहीं आ रहा. आई होप आपको समझ आ रहा होगा. Guys, this is online class and obviously I'm not able to see you, so it's really good if you keep interacting. So I do not feel alone. मुझे लग रहा है मैं किसी को पढ़ा रहा हूँ.
समझ आ गई, आप आगे करें.
Okay, so the next concept is pretty simple, as obvious from the name. HOMO means highest occupied, MO is molecular orbital, right? And LOMO, lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. That's concept basically majorly used in organic chemistry, where we discussed the attack of nucleophile to the electrophiles, right? What happens basically, the electrons from HOMO, highest occupied molecular orbital, attacks on the LUMO of the second element, which is the unoccupied. So if I ask you to point out the HOMO of N2, what you will say is that would be 3 sigma G. If I ask you to find the LUMO of N2, that would be 1 pi G, right? Similarly for CO, HOMO is 5 sigma and LUMO it would be 2 pi, right? So that's pretty simple term that we generally use in organic chemistry, but we can use in other disciplines as well. But that's the simple way to describe. That would be the occupied, highest occupied, and that would be the lowest unoccupied. Okay. So we are good with this lecture. Next one is 18. All right, so let's start the next lecture, and that's all with the recap. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about photoelectron spectroscopy. So the whole discussion we have discussed so far, or we have studied so far in this course, is majorly theoretical, right? We discussed about quantum mechanics, we discussed about wave functions, all was quantum mechanical calculations. MO theory itself is derived from molecular orbital quantum mechanical calculations. So spectroscopy is the basis of our experimental results. One of I really like the sentence which Dr. Basit explained in the lecture. That's how we talk to the material. So our atoms, our system, our molecules, our you call organic compounds or molecules, anyway, any system. Via light, we talk with the metal or the system. How exactly? You do have studied this photoelectric effect before, where by the incident light, we can eject electrons from the metal surface, right? So first of all, spectroscopy is really important in all the disciplines related to chemistry. हमने किसी भी system के बारे bond की vibrations find करनी है, उसकी rotations find करनी है, उसकी energy levels find करने हैं, all are done by this spectroscopy. And this is really important. You are going to do several experiments related to this in the next semester, Chem 100 lab, really exciting experiments. And that's why we are going to take just the overview of spectroscopy. Sample is irradiated with light, right? So here they are talking about UV light. You can obviously use X-rays, you can use UV, you can use IR radiations, you can use even microwave radiations. Microwave radiation is a good example which you generally use in your homes as well. You know, microwaves are quite low in energy, on the lowest side of electromagnetic spectrum. And what these rays actually do to your food, these rays basically raise the energy of rotational energy of the water molecules in your food. So when these microwaves, low energy waves, interact with your food, they basically raise the energy of the food. Or obviously when the energy is increased, the system, the food would be heated, right? So there's really a good example which we generally use in our homes as well. So moving forward, our discussion here is primarily related to the MO theory, which we just discussed earlier. Now we are going to find the ionization energy of the molecule. For the simple atoms, you have studied earlier, simply by photoelectric effect, we write this equation. We know the energy of the source, कि हमने कौन सी which light energy we irradiated on our sample. And if you know the kinetic energy of this ejected electron, you can find the work function. Or if you know the work function, you can figure out the kinetic energy. So in actual cases or in experimental setups, how our systems are basically, how our spectroscopic machines are made, we know the source energy of the light source, and we find the kinetic energy of the ejected electron by using some method in the instrument, right? I won't be going into the detail because that's not part of course, but if someone is interested, they can ask me later. So once you know the kinetic energy of the electron, the source you know as already, you can find the ionization energy basically. When I talk about molecule, I can figure out at which orbital exactly this electron was lying. If I irradiated this molecule with some light, if this electron gets ejected, and if I know the kinetic energy, I can find the ionization energy. What would be the ionization energy? You guys have studied this, that simply if I subtract the ionization energy or multiply it with minus sign, I will get the orbital energy. So cutting in short, what we just draw in MO diagram, we can find the energy by experimental methods, right? And that's how our theory is going to be tested, whether what we have discussed so far has some physical significance or not. Okay, so let's, how a typical graph is formed. We do have y-axis. On y-axis, we have intensity. Intensity means how much electrons are being removed from the system, right? On x-axis, we have basically ionization energy or binding energy. Guys, really important to note, ionization energy is positive because the electron is moved from the system. And if I'm talking about the electron is being bound to the system, I will have to write this minus sign here, that this electron is stabilized by some minus sign, obviously by some lowered energy, right? So that's the same concept which we discussed earlier, ke ionization energy positive hoti hai, orbital energy negative hoti hai. Why exactly? Because this is some attractive force towards the nucleus. That's why that negative sign comes here. Very important to note the units around the x-axis, because in some cases, all right, so before we move forward, let's discuss the general trend. Higher the ionization energy means that the orbital was more stabilized or more lowered in energy, right? Higher ionization energy, the orbital energy would be quite less, because that's the negative sign. So it would be more clear in the next slide, where we do have different orbitals. Suppose I have this N2 system, right? I drew the MO diagram, count the various electrons, and that's the sketch we get, right? Obviously, you know, this is on y-axis, we have energy. If I label the y-axis, I can exactly find the energy of these orbitals. But that was all theoretical. Now, when I experimentally determine the energy levels, these energy levels, what I do, the idea is same. I irradiate this with some light. These electrons would be ejected. I will find the kinetic energy from the instrument, and by simply subtracting the kinetic energy from this light energy, I can find ionization energy. So what happens? The orbital lying, or the HOMO here, highest occupied molecular orbital, uski ionization energy obviously सबसे कम होगी, because less energy is required to remove the highest filled orbital. And as I go downward, energy increase करती जाएगी. 3 sigma G, then you have 1 pi U. Now there is very important. Now we do have experimentally determined कि भाई वाकई N2 में sp mixing हो रही थी. Then we have 2 sigma U, and यहाँ पे उन्होंने plot नहीं किया this 2 sigma G. If I do have the plot here, 2 sigma G would be somewhere here, right? So that's how experimentally we can find the orbital energies, and even the number of electrons as well. So these, if I find the area under these curves, right, I can even calculate the ratios from which I can again find the number of electrons as well, right? So in this case, you can find 3 sigma to 1 pi U. If you do have the area here, you will get the ratio 2:4 or 1:2, as it is pretty evident. 2 electrons are here, 4 electrons are here. The next point is why we are getting these different peaks. As you can see that they have shown the example of hydrogen atom. अगर हाइड्रोजन एटम की हम आयोनाइजेशन एनर्जी फाइंड करें बाय द सेम मेथड, आपके पास एक ही पीक आती है. यहाँ पे why are we getting different peaks in the close vicinity, right? The reason being, when we have a molecule, right? Suppose we are talking about H2, 2 nuclei are being bound together by this covalent bond. This bond has some rotation, and it does have some vibration. So what happens basically, जो electronic levels थे, suppose if I call this is N2, if I call it this is N1. So these were electronic levels, right? हाँ, इसमें energy gap काफी ज़्यादा होता है, right? But once I convert atom to molecule, any molecule, वहाँ पे rotational और vibrational levels भी exist करते हैं. हमेशा जो आपकी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक एनर्जी होती है उसकी वो सबसे ज्यादा होती है, यानी 2 लेवल्स के बीच में एनर्जी. उसके बाद आपकी वाइब्रेशनल लेवल्स आते हैं, एंड देन वी गेट द रोटेशनल्स, राइट? एज यू कैन सी, these are the electronic levels, quite large difference between energy. These are vibrational levels. What I exactly mean by vibration, you know, when 2 masses are attached to each other via spring, उसकी obviously कोई ना कोई स्प्रिंग की एक एनर्जी होती है जिससे वो वाइब्रेट करता है. सिमिलरली मॉलिक्यूल भी वाइब्रेट करता है और उसकी भी कोई एनर्जी होती है. एंड इफ आई टॉक अबाउट इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक स्पेक्ट्रम, यहाँ पे यूवी लाइट है, if you go on the lower side of spectrum, there are IR radiations, infrared radiations. These infrared radiations are basically related to these vibrational levels. As you know, there is whole discussion about CO2 or global warming. The reason being CO2 is vibrationally active, IR active. What is IR? Again, some radiations from the sun that when it absorbs, तो ये हमारी अर्थ का टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज कर रहा है, right? All right, so moving back to our discussion, there are vibrational levels and then there are even closed levels which are rotational. These rotational levels corresponding to basically microwaves which we use in our microwave ovens to heat our foods. All right, so cutting it short, our discussion is related to this difference. There are lower levels lying here. So what happens, suppose if this is, I call it 1 pi u. What happens, just like here, you can see there are 4 electrons here. So there is possibility 2 electrons are lying here and 2 electrons are lying here. So when I give the light to this system, these 2 electrons remove from this level and these 2 will leave from this level. So the ones lying slightly higher, उनकी ये वाली peak आ जाएगी. The ones lying slightly lower, उनकी ये वाली peak आ जाएगी. और कोई अगर यहाँ पे होगा तो उसकी ये वाली peak आएगी. So that's how instead of getting one single peak, we are getting a bunch of peaks in close vicinity, right? Okay, so any questions?
मुझे कंफ्यूजन है यहाँ पे जो पीक बन रहा है वो हम आयनाइजेशन एनर्जी की कर रहे हैं कि एनर्जी जो इलेक्ट्रॉन वहां से निकलने के बाद दे रहा है वो एनर्जी है.
Exactly. So the point is you should be mindful what we are plotting on this x-axis, right? If this is orbital energy, तो वो obviously क्या होगी, जो orbital जितना higher होगा उसकी उतनी ही low ionization energy होगी. Higher means suppose excuse me, suppose this is the nuclei of two nuclei जहाँ पे वो orbital exist कर रहे हैं. They are obviously having some force of attraction. Then there are levels, energy levels around. So जो highest energy पे होगा, that would be more extremely loosely bound by this attractive force. तो उसको कम energy देनी पड़ेगी remove करने के लिए. That's why you can see this is appearing on 15 electron volts. 2 sigma u is quite low in energy. That's why ionization energy उसकी ज़्यादा है. I need to give more energy to remove this electron. I hope it is clear now.
Can you repeat what is electronic levels and vibrational levels and rotational levels?
Right. So I was saying that that in any molecule, generally we had discussed so far levels in this form. This is n equals to 1, this is n equals to 2, this is n equals to 3. So basically these are electronic levels. The levels where if I give energy, electron अपनी पूरी state change कर देता है, right? बिल्कुल next level पे चला जाता है, या हम कह देते हैं excited state में चला जाता है, right? These levels basically are related to, are called electronic levels. And obviously इसके लिए मुझे ज़्यादा energy देनी पड़ती है ऐसी transitions के लिए, UV या इससे भी higher energies, right? So that was basically related to atom. Single atom है hydrogen का, obviously this atom cannot rotate, कोई bond नहीं है, कोई vibration नहीं है. Either this atom is moving or either इसमें obviously levels हैं जिसमें ये transitions electrons की हो सकती हैं. But once I form a molecule like this molecule can vibrate and this can rotate as well, right? So apart from the electronic levels, there are some vibrational levels. कि अगर मैं suppose CO2 है, आपके पास कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड है, जब सन की रेज इस पे पड़ती हैं तो उसमें जो इंफ्रारेड वाला पोर्शन होता है, बिकॉज एनर्जी इज क्वांटाइज, तो ये जो बॉन्ड है CO कार्बन ऑक्सीजन बॉन्ड, ये बॉन्ड सन से ये वाली रेस को एब्सॉर्ब कर लेता है, राइट? because that is basically related to this vibrational level. That's why it heats up. So cutting it short, जो आपका molecule है उसमें vibrational levels भी होंगे और rotational levels भी होंगे. right? So now when I excite electron from this electronic level, वो electron यहाँ पे भी हो सकता है, वो यहाँ पे भी हो सकता है, वो यहाँ पे भी हो सकता है. Why exactly? Again, because if even your molecule is stored, suppose at room temperature, अगर ये room temperature पे भी है, there is some energy in the system, जिसकी वजह से जो इलेक्ट्रॉन है वो इस रोटेशनल लेवल पे भी जा रहा होगा, इस वाले पे भी होगा, इस वाले पे भी होगा. So जब मैं एक्सटर्नल एनर्जी सिस्टम को दूंगा, that can be removed from this lower level, that can be removed from this higher level. That's why मेरे पास यहाँ पे different peaks आती हैं. But the point is, लेकिन ऐसा कभी नहीं होता कि 1 pi u इसके साथ ओवरलैप कर जाए, because these are electronic levels. इतना डिफरेंस नहीं होता, वो अपने क्लोज वाले लेवल्स में मूव कर सकते हैं, unless I heat up the system. Is it clear now, or I had
Okay, I
made
got
it more complicated?
I got it.
Okay. So that's pretty much with the MO theory, right? Now let's move our discussion towards other bonding theories. Okay, so ideally, the how the theory is basically developed. First, there was a Lewis structure. Then we had Vesper theory, valence shell electron pair repulsion theory, PR. Then we had VBT, and then we basically they basically discovered or formulated molecular orbital theory. This was obviously supported by quantum mechanics. So we discussed in detail our MO theory. Now let's discuss the previous theories. Obviously, I know आप लोगों ने पहले भी इसका कुछ ना कुछ part cover किया हुआ है. So let's go through that. So general idea यही है जो आपका all these theories, Lewis dot structure, Vesper or VBT, we talk about localized bonding model. Localized का मतलब क्या है यहाँ पे basically कि अगर आपका suppose okay, water की example ले लेते हैं. इस theory में आप क्या करते हो, आप we obviously talk about one there are two lone pairs here, two lone pairs, one lone pair here, one here as well, oxygen पे. So ये जो bond है, we talk about के one electron was shared by hydrogen, one electron was shared by oxygen. So ये एक bond बन गया. What we say, this basically pair of electron is shared by oxygen and hydrogen. So that's why we call it localized, that this pair remains here. But in MO theory, MOT जो हमने भी डिस्कस किया, उसमें क्या होता है, जनरल MO ऑर्बिटल्स बनते हैं और हर ऑर्बिटल पूरे मॉलिक्यूल पे लाई कर रहा होता है. हम इसको अभी डिटेल में जब कंपेयर करेंगे देखेंगे. फॉर एग्जांपल वाटर की केस में अगर फर्स्ट सिग्मा बॉन्ड बनता है, उसकी इलेक्ट्रॉन डेंसिटी इस तरीके से होती है ओवर द होल मॉलिक्यूल. इस तरह सिग्मा स्टार अगर कहीं बनेगा तो यहाँ पे एक नोड आ जाएगा कहीं, but the electron density remains over the whole molecule. So that's why this term coming from localized model. In all these models, Lewis structure, Vesper, इसमें electron का pair एक localized जगह पे ही होता है. It is not over the whole molecule. Okay, so let's start our discussion. अगर आपको before we, instead of going through slides, let's discuss here. Okay, so Lewis structure is obviously that was the first bounding theory जिसमें हमने octet based on octet rule, and we have to follow some rules whenever we are asked to draw the Lewis structure of any particular molecule or compound. So first one is we need to count total valence electrons we need to assign central atom, and all other are basically around that central atom. All other atoms will be arranged around the central atom. So let's draw, take any example, for example, simple one, water, right? So वैलेंस इलेक्ट्रॉन्स कितने हैं? ऑक्सीजन में आपको पता है 6 होते हैं, हाइड्रोजन में 1 होता है. फॉर 2 हाइड्रोजन देयर आर H2 में 2 होंगे. सो टोटल वैलेंस इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आर 8. Central atom should be the one which is more electropositive generally. As you know pretty clear कि हाइड्रोजन सेंट्रल एटम नहीं हो सकता, बिकॉज उसको सिर्फ 2 ही इलेक्ट्रॉन चाहिए होते हैं ऑक्टेट कंप्लीट करने के लिए. बेसिकली डुएट फॉर हाइड्रोजन ओनली, बाकी सबके लिए ऑक्टेट होता है. सो द फर्स्ट स्टेप इज आपने सेंट्रल एटम ले लिया ऑक्सीजन, टर्मिनल बाकी जितने एटम्स हैं आपने उसके टर्मिनल और उसके अराउंड ड्रॉ कर दिए. हाइड्रोजन हेयर, हाइड्रोजन हेयर. थर्ड स्टेप इज use how many electrons we have? 8 electrons, which basically means 4 pairs. If I talk about pairs, there will be 4 pair of electrons or 8 electrons. So next step is form the bonds. Obviously start में हमने single bonds draw करने हैं. हमने single bonds draw कर दिए. How many electrons I have, pairs I have left? So I had 4 pairs. One is used to draw this bond, the other is used to draw this bond. I have left with 2 pairs. Next step आपका होता है, जो आपके पास remaining pairs रह गए हैं, आपने सबसे पहले terminal atoms का octet पूरा करना है. Satisfy the octet of terminal atoms. Like in this case, hydrogen has the duet that is already satisfied. This bond, obviously 2 electrons are on this hydrogen shared by this oxygen as well, but the duet is satisfied here, it is also satisfied here as well. So once it is satisfied, the next step is basically the rest, put the rest of electrons on central atom, and that would be basically in the form of lone pairs aa jayenge. So I had 2 pairs left, one here and one here. So now I don't have left any pair of electrons. The next step is basically to find the octet. Hydrogen का duet already satisfy. Oxygen का क्या case है यहाँ पे? Oxygen has 4 electrons as basically lying over oxygen, 4 of these, and then these are 2 bonds shared. So oxygen also has satisfied octet, right? So that's why I can say this is a valid Lewis structure. Duet hydrogen का satisfy हो गया, octet oxygen का satisfy हो गया. The next step is basically find the formal charge. फॉर्मल चार्ज का बहुत सिंपल वे यही है कि आपने न्यूट्रल एटम में इलेक्ट्रॉन्स को देखना है, राइट, और फिर मॉलिक्यूल में देखना है कि उस एटम पे कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हैं. अगर मैं ऑक्सीजन की बात करूं, वैलेंस इलेक्ट्रॉन्स कितने होते हैं? व्हेन देयर इज न्यूट्रल ऑक्सीजन एटम, देयर आर 6 वैलेंस इलेक्ट्रॉन्स, राइट. How many molecules of oxygen are there? Electrons are on this oxygen in this molecule. These 2 are completely belonging to oxygen, and these 2 as well. So there are 4 completely belongs to oxygen. This is the shared pair of electron, which means out of these 2 electrons, 1 belongs to oxygen. Similarly, ये भी एक shared pair है, इसमें 1 belongs to oxygen. So if I count total electrons on oxygen in this molecule, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in this molecule, there are 6 electrons. So 6 minus 6 equals to 0. The formal charge would be 0. Similarly, आप हाइड्रोजन का केस देखो. हाइड्रोजन इन ऑब्वियसली न्यूट्रल स्टेट, उसके में 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन होता है. इस केस में there is a shared pair of electron. One oxygen electron belongs to oxygen, one belongs to oxygen, hydrogen, sorry. So in this, the electrons in atom are 1, the electron in the molecule is also 1, the formal charge is 0, right? So that's how you can calculate formal charge. If you do have any questions, simply ask. Otherwise, we move forward towards some complex structures. Okay, so if there are not any questions, let's draw the Lewis structure of suppose any example. So the first step is total valence electrons. Xenon आपको पता है नोबल गैस है, आउटर मोस्ट इलेक्ट्रॉन्स इसमें 8 ही होंगे, प्लस फ्लोरीन में outer most electrons are 7. There are 4 fluorine atoms. I will get this. So that would be 28 plus 8 would be 36 electrons, or what I can say is 18 pairs. 18 pair of electrons, right? So the first step is electropositive. Obviously, आपको पता है fluorine is the most electronegative. There, xenon would be the electropositive. Central atom मैंने draw कर लिया. Terminal atoms उसके vicinity पे इसी तरह draw कर दिए. Next step is I need to form single bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I had 18 pairs. I used 4 of them. I am left with 14 pairs. The next step is to satisfy the octet of terminal atoms. I had 14 pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. As it was pretty clear कि fluorine ने एक bond बनाया है, so it should to satisfy the octet of 14, I have to have 6 electrons on each fluorine atom. That's why I used all the remaining pairs on terminal atoms. So after this, what's the situation? 14 से हमने 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 use कर लिए, I'm left with 2 pairs. So if the octet of terminal atoms are satisfied, the remaining pairs now lie on the central atom, like this. So now if the octets of terminal atoms are satisfied, now we need to look at the octet of central atom. And as you know, that there is neon and basically helium at the first period and second. First period and second period. Starting from the third period, I do have d block or d orbital involved. So all the elements involving such after the including the third period and further can expand their octets. That's why if you count the electrons on xenon, how much electrons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's where we call expanded octet. Expanded octet. So once मैंने octet को देख लिया, the next step is to find the formal charge, right? So formal charge on fluorine atom would be न्यूट्रल स्टेट में फ्लोरीन के पास आपको पता है वैलेंस 7 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होते हैं, माइनस आई एम गोइंग टू काउंट द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स ऑन फ्लोरीन इन दिस स्पेसिफिक मॉलिक्यूल. सो इफ आई टॉक अबाउट दिस फ्लोरीन एटम, राइट, how much electrons it has in this molecule? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and obviously this is the shared pair. 1 electron belongs to xenon, 1 belongs to fluorine, so that would be 7. So formal charge is 0. Since all the fluorine atoms have the same type of bond, so 0 formal charge on fluorine, 0 on this fluorine, 0 on this fluorine, and 0 on this fluorine. So let's talk about xenon. The formal charge on xenon would be, it is a noble gas. In neutral state, its valence electrons are 8, minus how much electrons are there in this atom? So 2, 3, 4, and basically 4 are coming from the lone pair, and then there are 4 bonds. So out of this bond, from each bond, there is 1 electron belonging to xenon. So there are 4 bonds, so 4 electrons belonging to xenon. So again, there would be 8 minus 8, summing up to 0. So the formal charge is on the whole molecule is 0. So the structure, so that would be the basically Lewis structure of xenon tetrafluoride. Any questions? Okay, so do you guys need any more examples related to Lewis structure, or we should move forward to VSEPR theory? Guys, are you there?
I think we should forward to VSEPR theory.
Okay, so we had discussed all the points related to Lewis structure. The one point that was missing, that हमने ये देखा कि जब हम terminal atoms के octet को satisfy कर लेते हैं, if there are no electrons left and we are not satisfying the octet of central atom, then I need to use these lone pairs to form double bonds to satisfy the octet, right? So the two examples we went through, उन दोनों cases में central atom पे कोई ना कोई lone pair बच जाता था. But if we come across any such case where all the pairs are used to satisfy the octet of central terminal atoms and the octet of central atom is not satisfied yet, what you will have to do is to form double or triple bond to satisfy the octet of central atom. And we also studied hyperconjugation okay, so let me open the last lecture. Okay, so we saw how we calculated formal charge. So there is the concept. अगर आपके पास कोई ऐसा केस आ जाए where you have one double bond and the remaining are the single bonds, what we can say, obviously this bond, specific bond, can obviously exist. If I name this is the first oxygen, this is the second, and that is the third. Obviously that can ideally this double bond can exist on any of these oxygen atoms. So for such cases we can draw the resonance structures. So if you are asked to draw the resonance structure, what you need to do simply is draw all the possible structures satisfying the same condition of the Lewis structure. For example, if I was asked to draw the Lewis structure of NO3 as it is drawn in slide, I hope it is pretty clear. Once you draw the structure, you can see there is the net negative charge as represented by this ion. So if you can come across such situation where this bond can obviously placed on any atom, what you have to do simply is to draw all the possible structures with this arrow. This arrow basically corresponds to resonance structures, that all these structures can exist, or ideally the superposition of all the three structures exist. Okay, and the other thing we just not covered yet was the exception to octet rule. We saw the expanded octet, but we haven't discussed hyperconjugation. Okay, so for that we need to draw obviously a structure of either PCl5 or SF6. So if you draw the Lewis structure of PCl5, right, that would be the structure you will get. The idea is same, central atom draw किया, terminal atoms हमने draw कर दिए, and we simply count the pair of electrons, satisfied, first draw the single bonds, and then satisfy the octets of terminal atoms. That's the structure you will get. But instead, as we mentioned earlier, when we were starting the Lewis structure, we talked about that it follows the octet rule. And any atoms where we basically expand the octet, we basically deviates from the octet rule. So even in the systems where there are d electrons and d orbitals involved, and we are asked to stick to the octet rule, the structure we draw basically called hyperconjugation. And how we draw it, simply just like when I was constructing PCl5, these are 5 chlorine atoms on the terminal, and total valence electrons are basically 5 for phosphorus, and for chlorine there are 7 to 5. 40 electrons and 20 pairs. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, after the 4th bond, if I draw the 5th bond, I will expand the octet. So if I'm not going to expand the octet, that's the result I will get. So out of 20, I used 4. I am left with 16 pairs. Now I am going to satisfy the terminal atoms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So all the electron pairs are consumed on on the terminal atoms. Now, if you are asked to find the formal charge, obviously this chlorine, this chlorine, this chlorine, and all these are same. So जो formal charge एक पे होगा वही सब पे होगा. So formal charge on the terminal chlorines forming a covalent bond would be न्यूट्रल स्टेट में क्लोरीन के वैलेंस इलेक्ट्रॉन 7 होते हैं, माइनस इस मॉलिक्यूल में कितने हैं 1 2 3 4 5 6, and out of this bond pair 1 belongs to chlorine, so there are 7, so it would be 0. So all the terminal chlorines have 0 formal charge. What about this particular one? All the 8 pairs are here, so that would be count to -1 charge. फ्री स्टेट में क्लोरीन के पास 7 है, मॉलिक्यूल में 8 है, फॉर्मल चार्ज वुड बी -1. सिमिलरली फॉस्फोरस पे फॉर्मल चार्ज क्या होगा? फ्री स्टेट में 5 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होते हैं, इसके पास माइनस, मॉलिक्यूल में कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स हैं? There are 4 bonds, so obviously 4 electrons belongs to phosphorus, because each bond is basically formed by sharing. So there are 4 electrons belonging to phosphorus. So formal charge would be +1. So that's the result you will get. +1 formal charge on central atom, -1 charge on this particular chlorine atom not forming the covalent bond. So via hyperconjugation, what we explain, we say that 4 bonds are like covalent bonds, and the one is basically this chlorine is being attracted via electrostatic attraction or ionic bond. So any questions related to hyperconjugation?
फिफ्थ क्लोरीन के बारे में रिपीट करेंगे प्लीज?
Yeah, so I was saying that when I need to follow the octet rule, मैंने central atom के around 4 bonds ही draw करने हैं, and that would be ये chlorine ऐसे ही रह जाएगा, and when I satisfied the terminal atoms, that's the result I will get. So formal charge on this particular chlorine, जिस पे negative charge है, ये कैसे आया है? 7 electrons क्लोरीन के फ्री स्टेट में होते हैं when it is an atom, माइनस इस पर्टिकुलर मॉलिक्यूल में क्लोरीन के पास, इस क्लोरीन के पास 8 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स है, राइट? सो दैट sums up to -1. So that's why इस क्लोरीन पे -1 चार्ज है. फॉस्फोरस पे when it's a neutral atom there are 5 valence electrons, माइनस इस पर्टिकुलर स्टेट में there are 4 bonds. Obviously हर बॉन्ड में से एक इलेक्ट्रॉन फॉस्फोरस को बिलोंग करता है. So formal charge would be +1. That's why there is +1. So how we explain this, that there are 4 covalent bonds and there is 1 ionic bond, or there is electrostatic attraction between opposite charges. Is it clear now?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's all pretty much with the Lewis structure. All right, so moving on to VSEPR. VSEPR basically builds on Lewis structure. अगर आपको कोई भी VSEPR से related question आ जाता है, आपको obviously first you have to draw the Lewis structure. Without Lewis structure, you cannot move to VSEPR. Remember, Lewis structure में that does not give any information related to geometry or the shape of the molecule. VSEPR is basically explains the geometries of the molecules or compounds, and it taking into the effect of the electron repulsions. So what happens basically, what are the types of electron pairs in any molecule or compound? As you can see, BeCl2 here, that's the Lewis structure. This pair is basically the bond pair, and these are the lone pairs. Why the lone pairs are drawn like this? Why exactly? Because these lone pairs are attracted by one nucleus. So these lone pairs can cause more repulsion around the electron density. These bond pairs are attracted by 2 nuclei. So that's why they are concentrated right at the center. Lone pairs are only attached by 1 nuclei. That's why they are drawn like this. So the idea is basically lone pair repulsion maximum होती है. Second step आ जाते हैं आपकी lone pair और bond pair repulsion. Third आ जाती है bond pair और bond pair repulsion. So that's how the VSEPR is built. कि आपने repulsion देखनी है electrons की, and obviously electrons wants to stay far apart. So if I look at this Lewis structure, what I can see, if these are 2 bonds around the central atom, they will obviously exist at 180 degree. Why? Because that's the maximum repulsion they can achieve. If I further increase the angle, the structure would be like this. So यहाँ पे तो angle increase हो गया, but यहाँ पे decrease हो गया. So these two will cause repulsion. So that's why that's not a stable structure. So what we need to do, we need to minimize the repulsions, right? So one term which we are going to use a lot is electron pair domains. So what is a domain basically? It's basically the space occupying by the bond pair or lone pair. For example, this is Be. So how many domains around beryllium atom? 1, 2. How many domains around chlorine atom? This is first lone pair, this is second lone pair, this is third lone pair. So total electron pair domains around chlorine are 4. First this one, second, third, fourth, right? So this is really important because we are going to discuss this a lot. What are electron pair domains? You need to look at the atom and how much electron density is around that particular atom. अगर कोई ऐसा केस आ जाता है, for example, ये वाला, so if I, even in this case, double bond and single bond and triple bond all are considered to be one electron pair domains, because that double bond is again concentrated in this space only, right? So if I talk about this particular carbon, how many electron pair domains are there? There are 2 electron pair domains. One, this one, the second is this one, right? Similarly, इस oxygen पे यहाँ भी lone pair है, यहाँ भी lone pair. So for oxygen, there are 3 domains. First, second, and third would be this double bond, right? So what these electron pair domains do? These electron pair domains basically defines the geometry of the system. So before we move forward, we need to see that इलेक्ट्रॉन पेयर डोमेन्स के कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग मेरे पास क्या ज्योमेट्री आती है. इस पर्टिकुलर केस में आपने देखा देयर आर 2 इलेक्ट्रॉन पेयर डोमेन्स, ज्योमेट्री इज लीनियर, राइट? सो लेट्स डिस्कस दिस इन डिटेल, बिकॉज कोई भी आप स्ट्रक्चर ड्रॉ करोगे उसमें मेनली आपके पास इलेक्ट्रॉन पेयर डोमेन्स ही मेन रोल प्ले करती हैं, सो ज्योमेट्री डिफाइन करने के लिए. सो दीज आर इलेक्ट्रॉन these are electron pair domains. This is suppose geometry. So if we talk about any system, suppose A, B2 having 2 electron pair domains at the center atom, geometry will always be linear. Why? Because if this is the central atom A, there are 2 electron pair domains. Obviously these domains will try their best to stay far apart, and for that the angle would be 180 degrees, right? If electron pair domains are 3, the geometry would be trigonal planar. So if this is the A atom, 3 domains are lying around this atom. Remember these we are talking about electron pair domains. इसमें ये केस भी आ सकता है जिसमें A पे एक lone pair हो और 2 B atoms हो. This molecule also have 3 domains. So any case when there are 3 electron pair domains and we are talking about electronic geometry, we are taking into account all the electrons. So you guys know the difference between electronic geometry and molecular geometry? So a molecular geometry is basically when we ignore the lone pairs. We only talk about electron pairs. So right now we are talking about electronic geometry or considering all the electrons. So if there are 3 electron pair domains, the geometry is trigonal planar and all pairs are 120 degree apart. So that's the maximum repulsion, maximum distance they can achieve. For any system when there are 3 electron pair domains, electronic geometry would be trigonal planar and the angle would be 120 degrees. When there are 4 electron pair domains, so the geometry would be tetrahedral, right? And the angle is 109.5 degrees. So obviously as we are going to increase the electron pair domains, the geometries will become more and more complex. But right till 2 and 3 the situation was pretty simple. But as we move towards fourth domain, we have to draw structures in 3D manner. If this is the A atom, B is here, B is here. So when I draw basically the colored bond like this in chemistry, this basically means B is lying outside the plane. If I draw the bond like using dash, I mean the atom is inside the plane. So it would be better to explain these structures with some models. This one. So if I increase the electron pair domain, so that's the case where we have 4 electron pair domains. You can see the screen. Yeah, so
Yes.
it's visible. So these are 4 electron pair domains, and the angles are each bond is forming 109.5 degrees with the other bond, right? So that's the idealized case when there are all 4 are bond pairs. So right now we are talking about the electron pair domains only. हम अभी lone pair और bond pair की repulsion को consider बाद में करते हैं. Okay, so these were that's what with the 4th domain. If I further increase electron pair domains, now I have 5 electron pair domains, and what sort of structure I am getting. So now you can see from this particular angle, this basically, let me draw. This is trigonal planar structure. These 3 atoms, this one, this one, this one, are in the same plane. And as you saw earlier, trigonal planar jab geometry hoti hai, like this one, if this was A atom, this was B, this was B, all 3. So they yahan pe 120 degree angle hota hai, right? Similarly, yahan bhi इन तीनों का आपस में 120 degree ही angle होगा. They are lying in the same plane. Other 2 are right angled to these. Now this triangle is facing you, and you can see these 2, this one and this one, are basically 90 degrees to the rest of the bonds. So if I try to draw this, for example, this is the central atom. This one, this is lying behind the plane, this is outside the plane. This is basically the trigonal planar structure, assuming that you are looking at the cross section of the triangle, just like जो अभी हमने यहाँ पे draw किया है. This was the triangle basically, and we are looking like this through the triangle. So all these are 120 degrees, and the rest of the 2 domains are orthogonal to this triangle, having 90 degrees bond with this triangle, right? So it is slightly complex, but I hope it is slightly clear with this particular model, right? So that's the plane of triangle, and that's the remaining 2 90 degree bonds, right? So that's the geometry. Electronic geometry would be trigonal bipyramidal. We call it trigonal bipyramidal. How? That's the triangle we are getting. That's the triangle, and bipyramidal means if I draw a pyramid like this is the triangle, right? And one pyramid can be drawn like this, and one pyramid can be drawn like this. So that's basically my planar triangle, and 2 pyramids can be drawn. That's why this geometry is called trigonal bipyramidal. All right, so this was slightly tricky. Agar kisi ko samajh nahi aayi, you can ask again. Otherwise, we move towards the 6th domain. Here we had 5. When there are 6 electron pair domains, the situation is pretty simple. All the pairs are 90 degrees with each other, right? That's a perfect octagon. So guys, if you are clear with these domains, when there was 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? If you guys are clear with the electronic geometry, now we need to move forward towards molecular geometry, and now we need to incorporate the repulsion by the lone pairs. As I discussed earlier, lone pair causes maximum repulsion. That's why when I need to draw any lone pair on an atom, I need to locate that particular area where there is minimum repulsion, right? And for such cases, I need to see कहाँ पे electron आपका angle सबसे wide है, वहाँ पे lone pair exist करता है. So let's start from the linear geometry and assigning. We are going to assign the lone pairs. Okay. So linear geometry, it's pretty clear, 180 degrees है उसमें bond, right? So obviously अगर आपने इसमें lone pair आएगा तो वो इधर ही आ सकता है, right? Again इसमें angle 120 degrees ही रहता है. But if I have trigonal planar 3 electron pair domains, and instead of this particular bond I have the lone pair. So what happens? This situation happens. The geometry, the electronic geometry is trigonal planar. Molecular geometry would be bent. When I talk about molecular geometry, basically, I'm talking about only bonds, right? I will take into account the repulsion caused by lone pair, but हम लोन पेयर की ज्योमेट्री काउंट नहीं करते इसमें, राइट? अब ये जो पर्टिकुलर केस है, सो इसमें आपके पास यहाँ पे लोन पेयर आ गया है और द स्ट्रक्चर वुड बी लाइक बेंट. हम लोन पेयर की ज्योमेट्री को मॉलिक्यूलर ज्योमेट्री में नहीं काउंट करते, राइट? एंड व्हाट आइडियली हैपेंस बेसिकली, सिंस if this was a, if these are two bonds and this is the lone pair, right? Since lone pair cause more repulsion, so ideal angle जो 120 degree था, यहाँ पे वो थोड़ा small हो जाएगा, because these two bond pairs, obviously these are electrons bound by both nuclei, so this lone pair is causing repulsion on the both sides. So ये angle, it would be less than 120 degrees, right? So that's the case with the three electron pair domains. If I talk about electron pair domains, there are still 3 electron pair domains, right? One, this one, second, third, but molecular geometry would be bent. So so let's increase the electron pair domains. 4 electron pair domains, we discussed the angle is 109.5 degrees. Electronic geometry is tetrahedral. Now if I remove one, since all the angles are same here, so अगर मैं lone pair add करूंगा तो वो किसी भी जगह पे जा सकता है. If I remove one bond pair and I add one lone pair, so what happens? Now this lone pair can obviously place in any place, but remember this site is showing 109.5 degrees, but ideally when just like हमने देखा था कि 3 electron pair domains थी but 1 lone pair था मेरे पास, तो मैंने आपको I told you that the angle of between these two, if this is A, this is B, and this is B, this particular angle will be less than 120 degrees, right? Really important. Why? Because this lone pair is causing repulsion. Similarly, अगर आपके tetrahedral का केस आ गया है and instead of all 4 bond pairs there is one lone pair like this one, all the remaining angles between these bonds will be less than 109.5 degrees. We are going to look at the examples as well. Since we are discussing here, let's talk about the examples. For example, ammonia hai. If you draw the Lewis structure of ammonia, that's the result you will get. If I talk about electronic geometry of ammonia, it would be tetrahedral. Why? Because there are 4 electron pair domains, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I talk about molecular geometry, that would be trigonal pyramidal. Why exactly? Because we are taking into account only obviously the bonds. As you can see, these 3 bonds are forming a pyramid, right? So pyramid formed by 3 bonds, basically trigonal pyramidal. And it is really important to mention that as shown here, this is incorrect. The angle is not 109.5 degree. The angles between all these NH bonds, basically it will always be less than 109.5 degrees, and even experimentally determined, I think it is 107 इसके around होता है. Let's go through another example. Water की हमने draw की थी, Lewis structure भी draw किया था. We saw there are 2 lone pairs on oxygen atom. So again, the electronic geometry is tetrahedral, but molecular geometry would be would be bent, 2 lone pairs and 2 bond pairs. So for molecular geometry, I need to only consider the bonds. The geometry would be bent, but the angle here is, this angle basically is almost equal to 102 degrees. As you can see, again, this is less than the ideal angle for tetrahedral geometry. Okay. So we are going through the examples as well. We have seen 4 electron pair domains. Now let's move to the fifth one, 3, 4, 5. So now this is slightly tricky because there are 2 types of angles here. This is the triangle having 120 degrees each, and these 2 lying above and below the plane. Basically, if I draw the structure like this, these 2 are 90 degrees. So when I am going to put a lone pair here, remember, if I put the lone pair where there is 90-degree angle, it will cause much repulsion. That's why the lone pair will always occupy the space where there is 120-degree angle. So if I remove one bond and I add one lone